Water over the weekend after a 33-year-old man jumped into Lake Waccamaw to save his son. This after the tube the boy was on detached from the boat. The man's body was spotted later by a drone camera, and his body was recovered. He was not wearing a life jacket. Officials say his son was wearing a life jacket when he was rescued. We are now 5 days into hurricane season, which runs through November 30th. While no storms are forecasted to impact the Cape Fear at this time, officials in Pender County want people to be prepared. A disaster expo was held in Rocky Point this weekend, allowing people the chance to speak with representatives from the National Weather Service, United Way, and Emergency Management. Organizers say events like these are very important to ensure residents have everything they need before a storm arrives. And some encouraging news for parents whose children need to drink special formula. Store shelves will be stacked with it by June 20th. That's according to Abbott, the company that makes formula. Abbott says specialty formula production has restarted at its Michigan plant. That's the plant that was closed by the FDA after inspectors found bacteria that can be deadly to infants. The company says it's first producing formula for babies who can't tolerate other formulas, then will move on to regular formula. Meanwhile, other nations have been shipping formula to the U.S. to help with the shortage. For more on these stories, you can head over to wwaytv3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
I'm meteorologist Matthew Huddleston with your WWAY Storm Track 3 accurate weather forecast. Expect a nice night overnight tonight as lows fall into the upper 50s and lower 60s under mostly clear skies. And a great start of the week as well on Monday, mostly clear with highs in the lower to middle 80s by the afternoon hours, with rain chances increasing as your week goes on. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Here's 1 minute of tree knowledge in 30 seconds with K.O. Davis.
It's important that you have somebody, a trained professional, to trim your trees. There are these guys out there that just hack trees, and that's the worst thing in the world that you can do. Don't let somebody hat rack your trees. That's a tree term for hat rack. You know how they just cut a tree and it looks like it's just got like a hat rack? These guys just go up and just cut the trees off, and they don't cut it back to the proper spot. Call us, because we care about your trees.
Visit KO's coasttocoasttree.com.
Don't let some yahoo hat rack your trees.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey, let's see if that... All right, that seems to have made a difference. All right, take two. Here we go. There we go. Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, including in my own house. How's that? Please visit the website, bigtalker.live. You can peruse our schedule of content and, you know, catch one of your favorite shows going to be on. Download the app for Android and iOS devices. Boy, that was pretty funny. Yeah, setting up and moving a radio station into your bedroom can be a challenge. Especially when you get the radio up and going and then install all the production and forget to tie the two together. Tie the two together with a stereo cable, and boom, here we are back on the air. I like that idea. Still not sure. There we go. All right. Wanted to make sure the stereo function was still there. Yeah, this is our first run. Find out if my roommates are annoyed. Because again, the entire radio station, including the morning show, which you are enjoying right now, is now being broadcast from under my bed. It's almost like Narnia up under here. Right? In one place, it's really nice and quiet and serene, and then down here, it's all chaos and crazy. But it's good to know that over this rockin' busy weekend, we didn't have any shootings or killings or anything like that to distract us from the news. No more war. The world is at peace. Right? Raining cats and dogs, and everybody's getting along. It's awesome. Till we get to Pennsylvania. Apparently, some riders were stuck upside down in mid-air at a Pennsylvania amusement park. Doesn't say who wrote it, but apparently on May 30, adventure-loving roller coaster riders at a western Pennsylvania amusement park were stuck upside down after a ride stopped. I'm guessing that was unscheduled stop. There have been many instances in the past where similar incidences have taken place with many stuck midair. However, this is different as the riders were upside down when the ride stopped midair. Following this, the roller coaster riders were gripped with anticipation as to what just happened in the midst of their joy ride. In a video posted by a U.S.-based media portal, it is seen that an Aero 360 ride was midair and was hanging upside down. The episode at Kennywood Park in West Mifflin, just outside Pittsburgh, left people stuck on a ride. The riders remained trapped for some time. But as the saying goes, all is well if it ends well. According to the amusement park, the maintenance staff scurried to tackle the situation. The park said the maintenance staff brought the Aero 360 ride back to its designated rest position. Later on, the staff evacuated the riders. As a precaution, 3 guests visited the first aid center. The reason for the technical failure of the ride is currently unknown. The ride remained closed while the incident is being investigated. In a similar incident last year around the same time, 20 riders were rescued after getting stuck on a roller coaster at Six Flags Fiesta in Texas. Let's see, then it was approximately 11:54 when the Poltergeist coaster stopped in the middle of a ride cycle. Jeff Fillico, marketing and communication manager, Fiesta Texas, had said in a statement. In cooperation with San Antonio Fire Department, we safely escorted all 20 guests from the ride. There are no reports of injuries. The safety of our guests is our highest priority, and the ride will remain closed while we complete a full inspection. Post the incident, firefighters helped the employees remove passengers from the ride. There were no injuries in that incident either, which is a good thing. So yeah, I guess the world has turned upside down. There has been lots of death and killing, and apparently there is a war going on. So not much has changed. No matter how hard we try. I'm not sure. I mean, Are we trying? Are we actually accomplishing anything? I don't know. Not excited by that, I tell you what. I should look at that. See if I can do that. I don't need any hotkeys. Hey, we're still learning, right? It's all good. Yeah, it's supposed to be. And you're supposed to, everything looks good, but oh well. We'll find out later what's going on. Because it is worth it to me. All right. Any other fun news? Well, on personal note, I guess. I mean, probably nobody's listening at 8 o'clock in the morning this morning. Slow day. Had a wonderful evening at the Bald Head Island Shoals Club last night. Just got to say, the purchase of the ferry operation has not been as smooth as one would expect, if you can imagine. It seems the ferry's private ownership side was sold for $63 million, something like that. $36 million. It was a lot of money, a lot more money than I have. And this was probably one of the busiest weekends I've seen down there in a while. And it's as crazy as any international airport you can imagine, certainly for its size. A lot of kids out there that just don't want to be there throwing around rich people luxury luggage. I get that. A lot of people who really shouldn't be operating a motor vehicle of any type are found to be, riding golf carts around with impunity. At one point, now this has been a couple of years, but I did see where the mom made the dad stop driving the cart so the kid could drive the cart because dad was hammered and mom was in no better shape. And it's like, look, the 14-year-old kid here is probably the most logical driver we have in our collection, so he's hopped up on Mountain Dew and M&M's, so yeah, let him drive. They changed up the menu, which, isn't bad. Change is just uncomfortable. But I gotta say, it was pretty happening. They have this stuff called bacon jam. Now, if you've ever had jams or preserves of strawberries or blueberries or whatever, I gotta say, bacon jam is the jam. It goes really well with the burger. And again, this is one of the cool things about going to Bald Head Island. Like, you can get a burger anywhere. I'm not a fish guy, right? So get a burger anywhere, have burger. Well, you go to Bald Head Island, you're going to get a burger unlike any other burger on the mainland. And this was no exception. We did a cookout at the Bald Head Island Club. Well, we played. Everybody else ate. Until it was time for us to eat, and it was Kobe burgers done on an open grill by a grill master who knows what he's doing. I mean, he's been doing backyard barbecues for a while, and that was an amazing event. I gotta say, that was just... It rocked. Okay, so... what else do we have going on here? I mean, a lot of toys, a lot of things I want to still working to upgrade, uplift, upfit everything here. It seems that I have quite the collection running. Right, I have 4 towers, 3 laptops, 2 iPads, and a partridge in a pear tree to make all this run. So, and what's interesting is the week that we had of 90-degree weather that caused all the issues that made me move everything into the bedroom. Has yielded some unexpected results, I will say that. I mean, for example, when it got up to 90 degrees, right, and everything in my room, everything in the garage started to just crap out. Noise here and failures there. And then I'm thinking, all right, I got to bug out of here. And I put everything into motion, pare everything down, start rewiring stuff, preparing it for the move. And then it's like freezing. So I could probably do this in the middle of the street today. The weather over the past couple of days has been incredibly moderate. Apparently a hurricane went by, or tropical storm or whatever, Alex, I think. And we were getting hit with 30, 40 mile an hour winds towards the end of the night, which drove the temperature down into the mid-low 70s. And of course, we were all dolled up to hang out on the beach to play music. So we were not wearing our thermals or jackets or anything of that nature. And once the gear is over, it's like we're all freezing. I couldn't believe I had the heater on the way home. I'm like, this is not normal. But hey, it's not normal to have a working working radio station in your bedroom or in the garage. But hey, here we are, loving it. It's actually quite a bit of fun. Even if, and especially if you are not expecting it. It's a whole lot of fun. Makes it different, makes it challenging. And as you might say, it brings it all home. Anything else interesting? I mean, some of the news that I got to share with you guys is a little less than what I'm used to getting for you guys. Like, here's one that's not really a surprise, so I had trouble thinking, should I read this or bother you guys with it? Apparently my own computer can't be bothered with it either. Come on, sweetheart. What's going on? Yeah, you're on the right network. Come on. Give me the news. Give me the news. Oh, it's the link forward thing. Come on. Oh, look at that. Well prepared. Just in time. I guess not. I tell you what, let's just kill that. And we'll try again. I don't think y'all are going to get... Oh, look at that. It has to reboot everything. Hey. Well, it's a Monday. What'd you expect? Especially starting with a new podcast or radio in the bedroom type of thing. Here we go. Is it going to work? Is it going to work? Oh, look at that. According to Brooke Cato, 1/3 of Americans admit they had no life plan after graduating school. These days, going to school doesn't mean getting a job. 1/3 of Americans revealed they had no plan after graduating from school, college, or high school, according to a new poll. The survey, conducted by One Poll for Colorado State University Global, looked at 2,000 adults and how they felt about entering the responsible life of adulthood. According to the data, 34% of respondents didn't have a plan, while 41% didn't even have a job lined up. Meanwhile, 17% who attended college said they had no plans after senior year. The same percentage, whether they're completing high school or college, felt pessimistic about their future as they transitioned into adulthood. In honor of National Higher Education Day on June 6th, the survey also revealed that 62% of respondents would want to attend college at some point, including the 787 participants who had already earned a degree, which would contribute to the ever-growing number of students getting their bachelor's. And this was reported by Southwest News Service and Talker News. According to the Pew Research Center, nearly 38% of all Americans older than 25, this website sucks, had obtained their bachelor's degree by 2021, the data point that has increased nearly 8 percentage points since 2011. In the survey, 62% of respondents who wanted to attend school said they'd be open to receiving a degree right in their living room, opting for virtual learning as opposed to in-person. A lot easier to cheat, I'll say that. For many busy adults who are also working a full-time job and raising a family, considering alternative education options outside of traditional brick-and-mortar campus, such as an online program, can help them attain their degree while also balancing life's responsibilities, said Pamela Toney, president of Colorado State University Global. But regardless of how the degree is earned, 71% of the participants agreed that any college has a responsibility to ready students for the world. I guess prepare would be a better choice, including the hardships they might face. In particular, this aid could come in the form of an advisor, which 2/3 of people with a degree said was helpful during their academic careers. The same respondents, 90%, 89 and change, were nearly 6 times more likely to say their college prepared them for the real world than those who didn't have advisors. For students in the survey, school was about more than hitting the books. Nearly half of the respondents said their experience could have been elevated had they learned daily life skills or obtained more experience in their fields, 47 and 44% respectively. When attending higher education, students typically expected to find work in their field of study, yet a quarter of respondents who are employed post-grad didn't even work in their degree field, while 68% said their annual college tuition cost more than what they earn yearly. This may be why 70%, 69 and change, of those surveyed want to switch career paths or jobs unrelated to their degrees. Imagine that. For those looking to make a career switch, this is the perfect time to tackle a degree or certification in a new field you are passionate about to improve your chances of finding your dream career path. For those who have not yet secured a job post-grad, that break after college before jumping in the deep end might be beneficial. Of those who took a break between college and a job for an average of 4 months, 86% of respondents said it was helpful. Meanwhile, nearly half of those surveyed who didn't take a break said that if they could go back and do it again, they would. Taking a break does not mean that has to be the end of the line for your education, said Tony. It's never too late to go back and get your degree or earn a certificate to hone a new skill in your field. In today's modern world, going back to school is possible for learners of all ages, or students of all ages, depending on how you look at it. So that's an option. Certainly in the situation I was in, that's just part of it. And again, they're blaming it on, or they want to include only the academic advisor. Not parents, not friends, not somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. Maybe somebody who's been in that field. Just a thought. Just a thought. Anyway, if that happens, we know what to do. Get a job, figure it out. Just checking in with people. Because it's that kind of morning. Yes, it is. You know what? I'm not even going to bother with that one. I'll use that for something else. I'm going to do this over here. This is kind of cool. Having it in my bedroom and scaled down, because it was covering, a 20 by 30 room or 10 by 30. It was massive. Now I've got it in a, what is that? About 6'6". Yeah, it's in about a 6 by 6 now. It's huge. It's massive, if you can believe that. Which is pretty cool. And the phone system might work, I don't know. Nobody's called me yet, so I can't try it. But it's there should anybody want to try it. And, man, I got everything here at my fingertips. This is pretty happening. So we're going to take a little break, which is fun, because I just hit this button. Yeah. This is pretty awesome. Yeah. So if anybody wants to learn how a radio station is run, just give me a buzz here at the Big Talker. And we're going to continue because we have people that actually sponsor me being stupid on air, and that's kind of nice. some days are better than others. This is a Monday after a late night gig at Bald Head Island, so, prepare yourselves for something that's a little less than syndication quality, all right? That's the way it goes on the Asylum. Some days are great, some days you get me.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Close to a dozen people are left without homes today after a fire in Wilmington yesterday. Wilmington police say the call came in just before 6:30 yesterday evening to the Mill Creek apartment complex near the intersection of Kerr Avenue and Randall Parkway. One man, a dog, and a cat were rescued by the Wilmington Fire Department. The man was transported to New Hanover Regional Medical Center and treated for smoke inhalation. Wilmington's battalion chief said the fire began in the attic of one of the apartments. The cause of that fire is still under investigation. A tragic end to a heroic effort on the water over the weekend after a 33-year-old man jumped into Lake Waccamaw to save his son. This after the tube the boy was on detached from the boat. The man's body was spotted later by a drone camera, and his body was recovered. He was not wearing a life jacket. Officials say his son was wearing a life jacket when he was rescued. We are now 5 days into hurricane season, which runs through November 30th. While no storms are forecasted to impact the Cape Fear at this time, officials in Pender County want people to be prepared. A disaster expo was held in Rocky Point this weekend, allowing people the chance to speak with representatives from the National Weather Service, United Way, and Emergency Management. Organizers say events like these are very important to ensure residents have everything they need before a storm arrives. And some encouraging news for parents whose children need to drink special formula. Store shelves will be stacked with it by June 20th. That's according to Abbott, the company that makes formula. Abbott says specialty formula production has restarted at its Michigan plant. That's the plant that was closed by the FDA after inspectors found bacteria that can be deadly to infants. The company says it's first producing formula for babies who can't tolerate other formulas, then will move on to regular formula. Meanwhile, other nations have been shipping formula to the U.S. to help with the shortage. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
I'm meteorologist Matthew Huddleston with your WWAY Storm Track 3 accurate weather forecast. Expect a nice night overnight tonight as lows fall into the upper 50s and lower 60s under mostly clear skies. And a great start of the week as well on Monday. Mostly clear with highs in the lower to middle 80s by the afternoon hours, with rain chances increasing as your week goes on. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
This show is also sponsored by Dr. Tony Maglione. Dr. Tony is a cardiologist practicing in Wilmington. He accepts Medicare patients, and his office is located across the street from New Hanover Regional Medical Center at 2032 17th Street. The office number is 202-1071. Dr. Tony is an author whose last book is Rules for Conservative Patriots, and it can be purchased on Amazon. His website is www.drtonymag.com.
Teachers and parents, the North Carolina Symphony is here to support you as you carry on the education of your children and students. Take your kids on a free virtual field trip to the Symphony with a virtual education concert and companion student book. Go on a virtual journey to learn what makes music music, with music by William Grant Still, Beethoven, Brahms, and more. Access the free video and student book with password 1932 at ncsymphony.org/virtual.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
No. That's right. Welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Right here on the Big Talker Network, bigtalker.live. Can't miss it. Hit the Listen Live tab, and you can take it anywhere you want to go on the Android and iOS device app. It's pretty happening. It's a way of life, actually. This is pretty happening. A little close to home. I mean, I'm in my home, so obviously there are times I may need to step into the other room, and, well, that was kind of surprising. Anyway, welcome back. Let's hit that button. Oh, yeah, I'm digging that. Look at that. Look at the little fader here. The part that gets me is I don't understand how this happens. Really, I don't. Just headlines. Republican congressman blames mass shootings on women having rights. Another guy, Trump-backed Senate candidate says gun violence is black people, frankly. Right? I mean, we just, what? We have this innate ability to blame people rather than, take responsibility or, even address the issues. Apparently, at least 12 dead in another weekend of mass shootings. Apparently, there's more than one. Philadelphia, which has been a hotbed of absolute insanity over the last couple of months. Philadelphia, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and may have involved multiple shooters, see. The first weekend of June marked a greater number of mass shooting deaths in the United States than the previous 3-day weekend, which ended with Memorial Day. The tally for weekend violence through Sunday night was at least 12 killed and at least 38 injured in mass shootings, defined by the Gun Violence Archive as an incident in which 4 or more people were shot or killed, not including the shooter. By the way, this is Dennis Romero out of NBC News. During the holiday weekend, 9 were killed and more than 60 were injured in attacks fitting that definition. As Americans debate the possibility of new gun regulations in the wake of the horrific Uvalde school attack, gun violence seemed to continue unabated, with the official start of summer, June 21st, and its hottest nights still ahead. The most notable violence this weekend took place in Philadelphia, where 3 were killed and 12 were injured, and in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which saw its second weekend in a row of massive shooter violence. This time with 2 dead and 12 others injured from gunfire. A third person died after being struck by a car. Other attacks in America included Clarendon County, South Carolina. A late Saturday graduation party outside a residence was interrupted by a drive-up shooting that may have involved 2 vehicles, the sheriff's office said. A 32-year-old woman struck by gunfire died Sunday morning. 7 others, including children's age ranging from 12 to 17, and a 36-year-old were injured. The violence might have been gang-related, the Clarendon County Sheriff's Office said in a statement. There were at least 60 or 70 rounds fired at this incident. It is not clear as of yet if some of these rounds may have been return fire from some of the subjects in the party. In Saginaw, Michigan, where a friend of mine lives, somebody's got friends somewhere, right? Early Sunday, a shooting killed 3 people, including 2 men at the scene and a woman who was hospitalized but did not survive, according to WEYI of Saginaw. 2 men injured in the attack were hospitalized. In Mesa, Arizona, early Sunday, 2 people were killed. When they say early Sunday, they mean Saturday night, still drunk, all right? So late Saturday night, drunk people, 2 people were killed and 2 others were injured in a shooting at a nightclub. See? The nightclub doesn't open on a Sunday morning, for Christ's sake. It's still open from Saturday night. Can we just stop with that? All right. 3 subjects who, shooting at a nightclub, NBC affiliate KPNX of Phoenix reported. 3 suspects. Oh, this is early for me. 3 suspects who allegedly sped away in a vehicle were chased by officers and ultimately stopped and arrested in connection with the attack, the station said. 2 men were pronounced dead at the scene. The injured, also at the venue, were hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries, authorities told KPNX. In Bibb County, Georgia, Saturday night, sheriff's deputies responded to reports of shots fired at an abandoned home and found 4 people down, including 19-year-old Cleveland Rains of Macon, who later died at a hospital, the county sheriff's office said. 3 other victims, named as 19-year-old Ralph Hughes, 23-year-old Jarvis Devon Hill, and 22-year-old Alicia Sinclair, were said to be stable at medical facilities, the Bibb County office said in a statement. Origins of the attack were still under investigation. Shannon Watts, founder of the group Moms Demand Action, which seeks to curb gun violence, noted on Twitter that the violence isn't abating. Last month it was New York, Texas, and California. This weekend it's Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and Tennessee. In an address to the nation Thursday, President Biden called on Congress to act on proposals to curb sales of semi-automatic rifles like the AR-15 developed for the military. Though the weapon has been used in some of the nation's worst mass shootings, authorities in the weekend's attack did not single out this style of weapon as a culprit. The president's plea came after 19 children and 2 teachers were fatally shot at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. On May 14th, the gunman, allegedly motivated by racism and hatred, killed 10 people at a grocery store in the heart of the black community in Buffalo, New York. Friday was recognized by a number of nonprofits committed to reducing shootings as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I think every day should be Gun Violence Awareness Day, but it's not gun violence, it's just violence. The fact that the gun is easy to get is just a symptom. And the proposals that I set forth in my essay, as read or published, I guess would be the term, on ordinary-times.com, we need to address not just the violence, whether it's gun, pencils, knives, bricks, whatever. The same issue that creates this type of anger and hatred to want to kill somebody, that's an external, right? And drug addicts are mostly on the internal. They're trying to destroy and kill themselves for the way they feel. Both of these situations have an underlying psychological issue that I honestly feel is the result of the dehumanizing aspect of public education. Because we have a society that's turned incredibly soft, right? Johnny last night reminded me that soft times make soft men. Soft men make hard times make hard men make soft times. Right? That's why the generation of badasses that were the World War II veterans worked very hard so their children would not have to go through it, right? So we just get softer every generation, and then stuff gets difficult, and the hard men rise to the surface to address these issues. But the problem is actually underneath all this, right? The same drive, the same impetus to get people, or that drives people to addiction, is the same impetus, the same psychological dysfunction that drives people to murder, drives people to drugs, it drives people to sex, to gambling, to conning, whatever it is, to escape the emptiness that they feel inside, which was not addressed when they were students. I was lucky I came out of it with a healthy dose of curiosity. So yes, I get angry, and yes, there were many times that I would have thought, boy, if I had a gun, I would have done something really inappropriate. But instead, I'm going to walk away because I have a bigger puzzle to work on. I have other things that are more interesting, more positive, more, accessible, and less of a, what are you thinking? And as I discussed in a previous show, the gun is not the problem. Gun is a word. Gun can relate to a car. It can relate to the corner office of a corporate ladder structure or executive environment. I'm gunning for that corner office. I'm gunning for a position that comes with its own executive bathroom, that kind of thing, right? Or if you're Vin Diesel or Paul Walker or who the other guy was, I can't remember. gunning the engines, right? Revving up your engine. Can't call it a weapon, right? A weapon of mass destruction. A pencil used efficiently could be a weapon of mass destruction, right? Because as long as the pencil doesn't break and I can keep jamming it into people's eyeballs and popping it into their brain, I can kill a lot of people with one pencil. It is possible, right? So weapon is another term which is actually more of a pronoun. Because a firearm is a firearm until it is used to hurt someone, then it is considered a weapon. Otherwise, it is an inert firearm. That's it. Nothing special. Now I just got to remember so how many did they say? At least 12 dead in another weekend. But it's because these people have absolutely lost touch. It's not they could have used anything, right? It's just the weapon was easy to get. I give you that. But it's why, you know? That's the part we need to fix. That's the part we need to address. And that's the part I honestly feel has been, what's the word I'm looking for? Overlooked, glossed over as far as education goes. We're so bent on teaching, you know, we fight over more of what we're trying to teach than anything. And then then some people are like, hey, let's give guns to teachers. Well, you know, who are they going to shoot? Because you don't even like which, books. Well, you can't read that book. I don't know who suggested that book. That person an idiot. Wait a minute. You know, this is a little inaccurate. Because at some point, somebody's got to be thinking, hey, this is a little unusual. I could be wrong. But something underneath, there's a systemic issue that is causing these issues uniquely in America. All right? Stop it. Just open the thing, all right? Why you gotta be difficult? Why? Got it. Oops. Wrong window. Why is it that people feel a need to escape or act out in such degrees? Well, for my education in students, right, one of the courses we took was cognitive development in students, children, right? And it's a course to help teachers understand where children are at in their developmental cycle. Right? At age 4, they're processing this. At age 5, their reality changes, right? They become more centered in the world, that everything as it relates to them. And from there, they can start developing empathy by relating to other people. Now, at one point during my childhood, and I think this added to the problem, the students with special needs were segregated from the rest. It was still, mainstreaming. Everybody gets mainstreamed, but they weren't in the mainstream. They were segregated. They were in their own classrooms. They had their own rooms. They had their own teachers. They had their own menu. They ate, I don't even think if they ate in the cafeteria, they ate in a spot where, they were out of direct view of the rest of the students, right? So it was very much a hidden situation. It wasn't like the kids were part of our everyday lives. It's not like I no, I don't remember riding the bus with these guys. So there wasn't a lot of understanding that whenever we run into these people, they are part of the campus life. We didn't know what to do, right? It was a very uncomfortable. What do you do? Do you smile? Do you wave? Do you make little cuckoo sounds or, right? There was no socializing of this mainstreaming of these kids that were, incapable of doing most things on their own. And they were tended to by a group of people that were trained to do that, but nobody really paid attention. Nobody taught us how to not be little jackholes, I guess is the best thing I can say for that, right? Because had we had a little bit more exposure, a little bit more involvement, I think there would have been a lot less awkward for many of the kids, that they would have been prepared to have more empathy in the real world. And the best way to relate empathy, usually, or at least, evoking some sense of emotional response and connection, at least in my world, had been through music. And to a greater extent, or a larger extent, arts, whether it's dancing or painting or sculpture. And I didn't think I was much of an art connoisseur, even though my brother is probably one of the best artists on the planet. It was still a bit surprising, is the only word I can think of, to find myself in front of an actual Rodin in, where were we, Chicago. Right, an interesting little side trip, 4 days. Went to see Al Jarreau and George Benson. It was an amazing concert, but we had 4 days. And one of them, I mean, if you're in a city like that, I don't care how much of a goob you are like me, you still look at like, hey, there is a major art gallery in this place. I want to see this. And to stand in front of an actual Rodin, which this one was about 7.5 foot tall. And I mean, you can still see the fingerprints and tool marks of what this guy went through to create this sculpture. Right? Some of the master paintings are up in the, it's just massive. It's very, very quiet. And one thing I discovered, or one thing I will point out, is that there were a very, very low incident rate of jerks. Right? Rude people, people you just don't want to be around, people you don't want in your reality. Very few of those. And I'm noticing a trend that, many of the shootings around the world, right? There was a Pulse nightclub and whatever else. It's usually around alcohol and sex. So, alcohol, drugs, sex, these are all things that lead to things like guns. Museums and galleries and dance hall, like actual dance theaters, they lead to things like appreciation of arts, a connection, an understanding, I don't know, some sense of humaneness. Isn't that interesting? I mean, how many mass shootings occur at art galleries? How many times has the Nutcracker been interrupted by a gang fight? Anybody else noticing this trend? The country western concert where lots of beer and stuff were sold out in Las Vegas, that one got shot up. But the Louvre, that's got to be one of the safest places ever. The Guggenheim, probably one of the safest places. Smithsonian, probably one of the safest places. Churches aren't safe. People go into church and shoot those people up. I mean, these are the horrible people. The places that aren't being shot up are the one place that would be a refuge for our sanity, for Christ's sake. That's our art galleries, our dance, and I mean dance halls, not like Pulse dance where you go to get drunk and laid. I'm talking the dance where, ballet and musicals and arts and performances happen. And I don't mean like your favorite rock band that sells beer and booze and has cocaine and other stupid. We're talking actual arts, right? Where people are commissioned to create an opera or a musical or some sort of medium. Maybe it's a sculpture, maybe it's a painting, maybe it's a sketch, maybe it's a animation. We have so many different types of art forms to help express ourselves that are far more productive and less damaging to the society than firearms. Right? Even martial arts, I'll give that one a hell of a leg up over this insanity. And the thing is, as we learn about our humanity through the arts, we understand that there is going to be uncomfortable situations, and the best place to learn, develop a response, the tools needed to get through life to deal with uncomfortable situations is going to be the macrocosm of the school system. Don't you think? Where else are you going to find diversity in a safe environment of this nature? Technically, safe environment. That's the idea. So if these kids were taught from the age 6, because keep in mind, these people are ground into burger from the age 6 to age 16 or 18 or whatever the hell the graduating age is by the time the kid gets there. Right? If they fill in all the bubbles right, they can graduate earlier. Not that they have any more sense of being a human or being aware of their bodies, right? When I was a kid, I remember the principal coming in, and because a lot of us were like, man, I don't want to take PE and do square dancing and touch a girl. I was like, he came in and explained, look, you can't draw a straight line without a ruler right now. For you to understand where your muscles are and how they work and to have control over them, you need as much education over your body as you do over your mind as far as reading, writing, arithmetic. But there's a whole third that they have ignored. Okay, so now we're going to teach you about your body through physical ed, not necessarily sex ed, but physical education, right? How to maintain balance, how to deal with being, in a busy environment, how to keep your balance, how to keep your body strength, how to be aware of your surroundings, how to be aware of what your body's telling you, that sort of thing. But we haven't done that with the actual psychology, the mental health of our people, not necessarily the mental health of like, oh, that guy was crazy, he needed a therapist, he had shown dark thoughts before. No, the mental health that just makes us understand that we are no better, no different than the person next to us, no matter the color of the skin, no matter the color of their socks. But we don't have that. From the age 6 on, these children are being ground. I mean, the parents are all upset about this, that, and the other thing, and they miss the bigger picture. Between their child's bubble scores, right, filling in the little bubbles, and their own property tax value determines where your kid's information has the greatest pull. Usually, it's in getting state funds. And these kids know it, and they're depressed by it. They know that they are not in any way, shape, or form important. They're not important to the school system. They are not really important to the administration at all. They're kind of important to the teachers, because the teachers are actually the only ones trying to do something. But if you tie their hands completely to the point that they can't teach anything that's remotely controversial, then they will not be equipped to deal with any sort of controversy or rebuttal when they hit the real world. That's the whole idea, I thought, behind things like debate class, right? Where kids are going to go in and they are going to learn how to defend their argument without the need for a chemically powered projectile, which is what a firearm is designed to do. The firearm itself, I will remind you, is an inert piece of gear. It's a tool that is designed specifically to send a projectile down range at the greatest efficiency possible. The person holding the weapon is where everything goes to shit. All right? So we can crank out children from our education system that actually can solve problems, but can also deal with confrontation, deal with situations different than their own without losing their minds, now we've got a shot. But that's going to be in the education system, and it needs to be done by people not like Betsy DeVos. We need people that understand the cognitive development of children from birth through age 18, so that when they hit the school at age 6, there's already an empathetic understanding of where these children are in a range in their mind collectively as a general rule. Because around this age, going into public school, children are actually concerned. They understand the environment at a very simple, very rudimentary level that throwing trash on the ground is a bad idea. Mommy and daddy have already taught them that making a mess is not good and you clean up your own messes. Sometime, somehow, somewhere between age 6 and age 18, the 12 years in the public education system, all of that is ground right the hell out of them. These kids now no longer care if they throw crap on the ground. They will litter for fun. This entire sense of humanity is completely crushed underfoot. They become one of million that are only represented by a $sign depending on what their SAT scores, what their standardized test scores are. And keep in mind, all of these test scores are not testing the child's knowledge. It's testing their ability to follow directions and take the tricks. That is, every school before these tests, they will teach the kids, look, even if you don't know the material, fill in a bubble. Because at least then, even if you filled in all the bubbles randomly, you have a 25% shot. Because there's 4 answers, 4 bubbles. You fill in one, you got a 25% chance of getting it right without ever reading the question. That to me is not exactly developing the educational foundation of our children. True, it's a pain in the ass that children have to go through, like, we had essays, right? I had to write essays for a lot of things as a kid, and as a result, the teacher would read it and make a note saying, here's what you're, I like your idea, this is how you can help put it together. It's an actual interaction. And that was true for the final, even though the final grade was final and they handed it back with all the corrections to it. It's not like you could correct it and hand it back. They were just continuing to point out. And a lot of these essays were going to be on issues that today would just not be considered valid conversation in the school center, right? You can't talk about abortion. You can't talk about birth. You can't talk about sex. Well, guess what? These are issues that are going to come up, and if they don't have a safe environment in which to make these discussions across multiple levels, meaning your parents might be, these parents, I should say, might be uncomfortable with it. These parents are more open to it. The kids should not be punished for their parents' beliefs. The kids need to learn that they are going to encounter these people throughout their life. And in this young, safe environment is where they can explore how they are going to respond to it. How do you respond to being upset? How do you respond to being wrong? Right? That's one of the worst things for most of these people, is that we become incredibly defensive to the point that I'm not wrong, I have a gun. It's that type of mentality. And on the same coin, because I'm wrong, I'm worthless and I'm going to do drugs until I die. Or until the pain stops, or whatever it is. Because they've not been equipped. They have not been challenged with this type of thing at a younger age. It's kind of like immunization, right? To inoculate you from the flu, they give you a little bit of the flu so that your body builds a response to it. A logical, appropriate response. If we can't do that in the school system, we are never going to have logical, appropriate responses to situations that challenge the children when they become adults. So now they're 25 years old and they've never encountered a person that's different than them, that's outside their school system and outside their little narrow band of understanding. So inner city schools and urban educational centers, right? Even the rhetoric is different between them depending on how you do it. Oh, look, this is a magnate. This is an academy. Well, that was just an inner city urban school. right? Our approach mentally needs to be, no. All these children need the opportunity to experience uncomfortable situations in a safe environment so that they can learn how to develop appropriate, logical, and empathetic responses. Learn how to be one of the many, not the one guy, the guy that shot up the school, or the guy that, whatever. There's a lot of things that can be done differently, and we're not doing it. And it's going to be in the school system. It's not going to be in legislation. It's not going to be in gun control. It's not going to be in the type of weapon, because it doesn't matter. You could do it with a pencil. You can do it with a knife. You could do it with a slingshot. You could do it with a rope, a chain, a bicycle tire. I mean, if you go through the history of Humanus Americanus, the American type species of human being, I mean, just look at what's inside the prisons used to kill one another. We are a creative species, so the weapon itself is not the issue. You could have a big gun, a little gun. It could fire 5 bullets or 500 bullets, right? You could always reload. Oh, the gun jammed. Oh, look, you can clear it. Hey, all of this crap is stupid. This is getting further and further and further and further away from any chance of making some sort of solution to this. Right? Come on, let's teach our kids something more than 2 + 2 are 4. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back after this. I have gotten confirmation that Paul Valone from Guns, Politics, and Freedom will be joining us here in just a bit, and I am very much looking forward to it because it's been a hell of an active weekend. So, hey, we'll be right back on the Asylum. Don't go nowhere.
Keeping Oak Island informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Close to a dozen people are left without homes today after a fire in Wilmington yesterday. Wilmington police say the call came in just before 6:30 yesterday evening to the Mill Creek apartment complex near the intersection of Kerr Avenue and Randall Parkway. One man, a dog, and a cat were rescued by the Wilmington Fire Department. The man was transported to New Hanover Regional Medical Center and treated for smoke inhalation. Wilmington's battalion chief said the fire began in the attic of one of the apartments. The cause of that fire is still under investigation. A tragic end to a heroic effort on the water over the weekend after a 33-year-old man jumped into Lake Waccamaw to save his son. This after the tube the boy was on detached from the boat. The man's body was spotted later by a drone camera, and his body was recovered. He was not wearing a life jacket. Officials say his son was wearing a life jacket when he was rescued. We are now 5 days into hurricane season, which runs through November 30th. While no storms are forecasted to impact the Cape Fear at this time, officials in Pender County want people to be prepared. A disaster expo was held in Rocky Point this weekend, allowing people the chance to speak with representatives from the National Weather Service, United Way, and Emergency Management. Organizers say events like these are very important to ensure residents have everything they need before a storm arrives. And some encouraging news for parents whose children need to drink special formula. Store shelves will be stacked with it by June 20th. That's according to Abbott, the company that makes formula. Abbott says specialty formula production has restarted at its Michigan plant. That's the plant that was closed by the FDA after inspectors found bacteria that can be deadly to infants. The company says it's first producing formula for babies who can't tolerate other formulas, then will move on to regular formula. Meanwhile, other nations have been shipping formula to the U.S. to help with the shortage. For more on these stories, you can head over to wwaytv3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
I'm meteorologist Matthew Huddleston with your WWAY Storm Track 3 accurate weather forecast. Expect a nice night overnight tonight as lows fall into the upper 50s and lower 60s under mostly clear skies. And a great start of the week as well on Monday, mostly clear with highs in the lower to middle 80s by the afternoon hours, with rain chances increasing as your week goes on. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
When I tell people I'm a collision repair technician, they usually say, "Can I get your number?" Sooner or later, they're going to need me. I'm the guy who you call when you had a fender bender, who takes your mangled car and brings it back to its former glory. I absolutely love what I do. I trained at CFCC and had job offers waiting on me when I finished. I make great money and can work anywhere. People rely on me. That's a good feeling. I got my start at CFCC, and you can too. Visit cfcc.edu/trades and get started today.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys! I love this song! I love these nachos. I love our kickball league! Ugh! I love this guy! What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
Oh, yeah. I'm like 3 seconds behind on the computer, so why not? Why not? There it is. Oh yeah, a little rough on a Monday. But none of the content is wrong, right? I mean, if we were to teach empathy as well as we teach math, maybe I shouldn't say math. Seems that people are scared of math. Welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Live. We're about to have Paul Valone join us. And I'm sure we're going to get a good dose of information from him. Oh, look at that. I can go the other way. Universal background checks and red flag laws. We should accept in the name of being reasonable. I think reasonable would be to find the problem and, fix the root. And I still contend that the root of the problem is in the disconnect of human beings with one another. Right? Oh, man. That's some heavy-duty thinking right there. I mean, red flag laws, if my idea was put into action, there would not be a red flag law. You wouldn't need it. Because that which would become a red flag later in life would have already been dealt with as a child, saying, hey, that is not appropriate. The same way we do with children when they throw trash on the ground or throw a temper tantrum, that is not appropriate. Let's find another way for you to act out and express your frustration, your anger, your angst, whatever. I always thought time out was a little weird, but on the other end of the spectrum, punishing violence with violence doesn't make sense. Right? I remember a while back we had a amnesty thing going on. Why do we kill people who kill people to show people that killing people is wrong? I mean, put that one together. What we need to do is understand that our lives are intertwined one with another. The rest of the planet has figured this out. The trees inherently, right, they don't have a consciousness, but their existence is based on what's in the earth. Water, dead stuff. Animals, everything on this planet lives on the death of something else. Everything on this planet works in symbiosis with something else, right? The trees feed on dead things, whether it's dead leaves or dead animals, and they create oxygen for us to breathe. We can't live without it, and it can't live without us. That's all there is to it. So much of that relationship, as far as human beings goes, is completely out of balance. We consider ourselves different than or separate from our planet, and nothing could be further from the truth. What's interesting is that the rest of the universe has come to an understanding and a balance all on its own without any intervention on our part. Isn't that remarkable? And it is absolutely possible for a lion and an antelope to chill out in the same water hole. If the lion is fed, the antelope has nothing to fear. It may have killed its cousin, but it wasn't personal. It's just that's how the world works. Now, when it relates to human beings, we have a different relationship. We seem to kill with impunity as if we are, disposing of the packaging of a product we just bought. That's because our mentality, our connection, our understanding, our empathetic education has been stunted. We don't have a platonic relationship with reality. And I think that's an important concept that should be developed in our society, because it allows us to think ahead is one of the terms that I would like to incorporate, right? Where you're actually seeing the world before you go into it, right? For example, you know that you are going to the store to buy some milk. And it's interesting, I think it was Wired magazine it was Omni magazine, dedicated an entire issue to the study of the brain and the difference between men and women's brains and how they work. Women are much better communicators because when they are conversing, all four of their lobes are firing. Cross-firing, side to side, front to back. It's amazing. Men, however, tend to stay side to side, meaning they're either in their logical mode or they're in a creative mode. They're not as good at the conversation and not necessarily conveying data. We're very good at that. Getting the information you need to do what it is you're doing is very easy for us. But for us to remember little Sally's birthday and that she lost her tooth and, does she still like apples now that she can't eat them? The bite is different. Just those types of conversations are more difficult for men. We just don't have the four lobes cross-firing side to side. However, we do have the ability to pre-map our task. Someone in the house, traditionally the wife, says, "Can you please pick up some milk on your way home from work?" Well, the moment she says that, I've already developed a map in my head for the most efficient path to get to the grocery store. Not only that, I have already put in my head the map to get to the milk with the least amount of wandering around the store like an idiot. Right? I'm sort of pre-planning everything that I'm doing by having a platonic relationship that the reality itself, I've already set my parameters. I have already set my path, my intention, my design. I am prepared so that now when I go through that path, the rest of my preparation as far as people lets me, prepares me to hold the door for somebody who's got an extra package or an armful of stuff, right? That prepares me to encounter people that might clog the one aisle I wanted to use. Not a problem. There's 15 other aisles. I can use any one of them. I also know to check my frustration that the milk is in the back of the store. Why is the milk in the back of the store? Because people who wander through the store getting to the milk are going to see other things that they need or think they need. Because the package is brightly colored, yellow and blue and red, just screaming at you, buy me, buy me, buy me. I just need the milk. Also, men seem to be less prone to the succubus, if you will, of the on sale sign stashed around the store. Hey, buy one, get one free. It's on sale. It's we just don't buy that. Right? We don't run into that. Honey, why did you buy 7 pair of shoes? They were on sale. So now you have 7 of the exact same shoe because they were on sale. Okay. So there's an education that's not being done, I guess is the word. And the thing is, through the last, I would say 20, 30 years, 25 years, there seems to be a push to put more of the education responsibility on the teacher for educating them for things that are supposed to be educated at home, like how to not be a jerk, not how to be a litter bug, that sort of thing. But to be fair, I think it's going to be very difficult to combat that because we don't have the same yeah, that's not right. It doesn't have the same, what's the word I'm looking for? Impact, right? Because it's being negated the further you go into school, right? The older you get in school, the more crushed, I guess you could say, you are, right? The more you try to develop it at home, the more it's beaten out of you in school. Because the peer pressure, that sort of thing, becomes more and more difficult to bypass, to not experience, I guess, is the term. Because if you live in a bubble at home and then you have to readjust to go into school and deal with the bullies, right? Or whatever the issue is in the school system, there are ways to get that education in the school system proper. And that's going to be through the arts, not necessarily dealing with each event, but once you come into a story or some sort of artistic expression that relates to a child, and they now see themselves in that, now you have a connection. Now they have the ability to relate to a platonic relationship with reality. Here's a situation much like the one they're in. They have feelings very much described very much as the ones that they are experiencing. Therefore, they are not unique. They are not alone in this feeling. Now they're open. Now there's an opening, I should say, for them to learn in a safe environment how to deal with these types of feelings, how to deal with this type of experience or confrontation or whatever the term may, whatever the issue may be. Right? I mean, we don't throw them to the wolves and expect them to solve complex equations to prevent the space shuttle from crashing. Right? We start them with math in a safe environment where when they make a mistake, the teacher can explain how and why. The child learns from that and develops the concepts of mathematics. And that's what's happened. I think that's the other end of the equation, is that we are no longer teaching the concepts involved. We're too concerned with the minutiae of everything. That's what's so cool about college, is that all of your 100 courses are conceptual in nature. They're not specific to the actual, like in engineering, they're introducing you to the concepts of engineering, what stress is, what forces are, not necessarily calculating the stresses involved with the Golden Gate Bridge during rush hour in the dead of summer versus the dead of winter. They're just going to introduce you to the idea that there's going to be differences. And your job as a good engineer is to discover and manage those differences. And that's where the school system should be, is that we're teaching you these mathematical principles so that you can understand the concept of the world around you. Because if we develop a healthier platonic relationship with reality, then our relationship with reality will become far more amicable. Because we've already experienced it in a training or simulation type environment. That's why we train pilots in a simulator, so if something goes wrong, they don't crash a $2 million aircraft. And those are uncomfortable situations, okay? Let me see if I can't help flesh this out. You're a fresh pilot and you're doing your ground school and you're now doing your flight checks and, you know, you're trying to become an actual pilot because it's a really cool job. And you're sitting there with your training instructor and your flight instructor, your check ride guy or whatever it is, and you're in the simulator, which is, you know, a several $1 million amazing ride. If you ever get a chance to, like, sit in one while somebody is check riding or whatever, man, do it. It's flippin' amazing. When you get out of it, you forget. I swear to God, 20 minutes in, and I did not remember that I was not in an aircraft. It was amazing. The sounds, the smells, everything is real. And then you're flying along, and you're doing your thing, and you're heading to Jakarta or Japan or Europe or Indonesia or wherever the hell your plane's going, and you're high over the Atlantic Ocean, and engine 3 goes out. You are now in a very uncomfortable situation because everything was wings level, cruising fine, something's gone wrong. You are now confronted with an uncomfortable situation. How you react is the result of the training that you, as a pilot trainee, trainee pilot, have incorporated for yourself. Are you going to freak out? Are you going to cuss? Are you going to panic? As Dr. Cahoon has pointed out more than once, the panic is what kills you. The ability to say, okay, engine 3 is out. Checklist for engine number 3. You go through the steps. You maintain your functional awareness. And this can be true in any situation. The problem is we are a scared little species because we do not know how to deal with things that are unnatural or unusual to us. Does that make sense? So where are we going to learn how to practice? How are we going to learn to incorporate these types of tools, these types of, responses? How are we going to even have these experiences before we have them in the real world? We need some sort of platonic schema with which to work with. We already have one for our, most people have something of a budget in their head. They know how much the gas is, for example, even the worst of us that smoke cigarettes, we kind of know that $7 a pack is what we're dealing with. So no matter where we are, we just kind of think, all right, I'm running low on cigarettes. Do I have $7? Some of us have it pretty easily. Some of us maybe not so much. But at least we have a working platonic understanding that my addiction of cigarettes costs this much money. My addiction for milk, for my cereal or my coffee costs this much money. That platonic relationship, if developed more completely, would prepare us for situations that we may not ever actually encounter, but would also equip us to be better stewards for our brothers and sisters and neighbors and cousins and friends and whoever else around us that might be experiencing an, I don't know, hurricane? I don't know, victims of a shooting? There are so many times, so many ways that we are going to need to support each other as human beings, but we don't know how. Why? No one taught us. Where would you learn this? Well, it would have been at the Boy Scouts. But horrible human beings have ruined that. It would be in the church, but horrible human beings have ruined that from within and without. It's supposed to be our school system. That's where we're supposed to learn how to be proper little human beings, not just learning how to add 2 and 2 and push buttons. And I get George Carlin's whole thing, right? They don't want to teach you how to overthrow the government. They don't want to teach you to be smart. They want to teach you to keep the machine rolling so that you'll buy dime store romance novels and think that you're educating yourself and that you are, improving yourself or whatever, which is fine. At least you're reading. But I tell you what, you can't really fire a gun with a book in your hands, all right? So maybe we stop looking at the results of the problem and start looking at the problem is the fact that we are cranking out little a-holes left and right. But wouldn't that be an option? If we were to go through education, we might come up with some sort of, solution that eliminates all of these issues, including drug addiction, including homelessness, including unemployment. Right? Because people will become interested in their relationship with reality. Having a solid platonic relationship with reality, which is what's in your head. Math, for example, the very beginnings of math, which were based in market, based in selling, based in fish for bread, right? So those numbers were representative. If I catch 200 fish, I can't hold 200 fish in my hands, let alone in my head, unless I find a way to make it a representation of that reality. Here are 200 fish. They are divided into 20 things of 10 fish each. That I can work with. My platonic relationship with reality is functional. This is what we need to teach. These are some of the changes that need to happen. Red flag laws and none of this other crap is going to make any difference until we can change the mentality of the child, of the person being educated into the adult that we release at age 18. So with more rantings like this, we'll be joined here in just a moment with Mr. Paul Valone, the host and director of the Grassroots North Carolina, but he's the host and producer of Guns, Politics, and Freedom, heard every Saturday right here on The Big Talker. So please don't go nowhere.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Close to a dozen people are left without homes today after a fire in Wilmington yesterday. Wilmington police say the call came in just before 6:30 yesterday evening to the Mill Creek apartment complex near the intersection of Kerr Avenue and Randall Parkway. One man, a dog, and a cat were rescued by the Wilmington Fire Department. The man was transported to New Hanover Regional Medical Center and treated for smoke inhalation. Wilmington's battalion chief said the fire began in the attic of one of the apartments. The cause of that fire is still under investigation. A tragic end to a heroic effort on the water over the weekend after a 33-year-old man jumped into Lake Waccamaw to save his son. This after the tube the boy was on detached from the boat. The man's body was spotted later by a drone camera, and his body was recovered. He was not wearing a life jacket. Officials say his son was wearing a life jacket when he was rescued. We are now 5 days into hurricane season, which runs through November 30th. While no storms are forecasted to impact the Cape Fear at this time, officials in Pender County want people to be prepared. A disaster expo was held in Rocky Point this weekend, allowing people the chance to speak with representatives from the National Weather Service, United Way, and Emergency Management. Organizers say events like these are very important to ensure residents have everything they need before a storm arrives. And some encouraging news for parents whose children need to drink special formula. Store shelves will be stacked with it by June 20th. That's according to Abbott, the company that makes formula. Abbott says specialty formula production has restarted at its Michigan plant. That's the plant that was closed by the FDA after inspectors found bacteria that can be deadly to infants. The company says it's first producing formula for babies who can't tolerate other formulas, then will move on to regular formula. Meanwhile, other nations have been shipping formula to the U.S. to help with the shortage. For more on these stories, you can head over to wwaytv3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
I'm meteorologist Matthew Huddleston with your WWAY Storm Track 3 AccuWeather forecast. Expect a nice night overnight tonight as lows fall into the upper 50s and lower 60s under mostly clear skies. And a great start of the week as well on Monday, mostly clear with highs in the lower to middle 80s by the afternoon hours, with rain chances increasing as your week goes on. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you or a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge here in a world gone mad. And as promised, well, don't forget to download the app for the Android and iOS devices and all the other housekeeping stuff I do, like, BigTalker.live. I did it 3 times already. But I'm more excited about our guest, Mr. Paul Valone, from the Grassroots North Carolina organization, the director of that, I believe, as well as the host and producer of Guns, Politics, and Freedom. And as I sort of teased a little bit before the show, there was a recent article you were going to respond to with some legislation that everybody can get behind. It's a perfect fix for everyone.
Yeah, well, yes and no, and definitely no. As you may know, there has been a big push for gun control in the wake of some of the recent mass killings. Biden has been out there in primetime television screaming for assault weapon bans and universal background checks and red flag laws and a variety of other proposals. And unfortunately, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has designated several Republicans who are now negotiating with the Democrats over what they might be able to reasonably, and I use that word in quotes, reasonably compromise on. And I'll put that word in quotes too, because compromise, as our opposition defines it, is generally a process under which you lose less than you would have lost under their original proposal, but you still lose. Okay, so McConnell's got John Cornyn and also our own Tom Tillis on this negotiating committee, so we've been putting some pressure on these people. But the problem we're experiencing is that the NRA is largely AWOL from the debate because of all their little internal problems with, Wayne LaPierre and the rest of his merry band. I won't even go into that one right now. So a lot of the lobbying, an increasing amount of the lobbying, is being done by the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which sounds fine until you realize that the National Shooting Sports Foundation is a lobbying organization for gun manufacturers and gun businesses. It does not have your best interest or your individual rights.
They're probably
at heart.
They're profit driven.
Yeah, exactly. And
otherwise,
so
they wouldn't have that large of a lobby.
They've recently come out and said they do not oppose across the board red flag gun confiscation proposals. And because obviously that doesn't impact their bottom line, it's only your problem. So we're seeing a rift developing where some conservatives are starting to say, well, maybe universal background checks and red flag laws aren't so bad. We can appear reasonable by supporting these things. And in fact, David Larson in Carolina Journal from the John Locke Foundation just did a piece to that effect. Now, what people don't really and meanwhile, of course, you've got even Fox News coming out and saying 89% of people support universal background checks and they support red flag laws. Well, that's because most people don't know what's involved with these things.
Or the parameters that are going to be considered. Like, I'm all for red flag laws until you have to look up my name.
Well, until, for one thing, one of the senators, Steve Cohen, recently said I guess he was a House rep, in the House hearings last week, was heard to say that merely applying for a license to own a firearm should be a red flag. Anyway.
Oh, that's interesting.
We'll get back to that one, but universal background checks. Here is what they're really proposing, and here's the problem. You can't create a universal background check system that I cannot turn into a national gun registry. And anybody who says that can't be done should know it already has been. When Congress passed the Brady Act in 1993, it had a 5-day waiting period. Well, that sunsetted upon creation of the computerized National Instant Background Check system in 1998. And so that computerized background check system, as part of the negotiations for the Brady Act, has to expunge transaction records within 72 hours so that the ATF cannot create a national gun registry. In fact, the ATF is prohibited from creating a gun registry both by the Brady Act and the 1986 Firearms Owners Protection Act. Both. Yet, Janet Reno, then Attorney General in 1998, refused to expunge the transaction records, claiming she needed them for audit purposes. So the NRA sued in NRA versus Reno, saying she was creating a de facto gun registry. Well, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals disagreed, and the 3-judge panel, which included, by the way, Merrick Garland, does that name sound familiar? Your current Attorney General? Told the NRA that this was not a de facto gun registry because it didn't register all guns. You see, as part of the compromise in passing the Brady Act, computerized background checks, like the federal Form 4473s created by the Gun Control Act of 1968, apply only to purchases from licensed dealers, not transfers between private individuals. So in order to create a proper gun registry, the ATF needs to capture transaction records between private individuals as well as from dealers. And that's what universal background checks do. They would require you, if you wanted to sell a gun, to go to a dealer, have the dealer do this computerized background check and fill out a Form 4473, and in theory, the FBI is going to expunge that transaction record in 72 hours. Ha ha. Okay, here's the reality of what's happening. Gun Owners of America last November got a hold of a leaked document that determined that in fiscal year 2021, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, or ATF, grabbed fully 54.8 million records in 1 year. Now, worse, in response to this, 51 congressional Republicans, including our own Ted Budd, who's running for United States Senate, vote Ted Budd, and Madison Cawthorn, sent a FOIA request to ATF, and in response, the ATF admits that it now controls 920 million records, of which 865 million are already digitized. That's nearly 1 billion records, which, by the way, has tripled since 2016, when the ATF admitted to having only, I use that word in quotes, only 285 million records. Now, what makes this especially egregious is that the ATF is only allowed to compile transaction records from dealers who go out of business, and even then, only if the records are less than 20 years old. The dealers, until recently, a recent edict from the ATF, the dealers could destroy transaction records, the Form 4473s, after 20 years. So now the ATF is saying, oh no, you have to retain them permanently, in perpetuity, which of course now, some dealers like Larry Hyatt, they're looking at warehouses full of these records, and they're going, well, the only way I can keep them perpetually is to digitize them, thereby doing the ATF's job for them. So
that does save the taxpayers some money, so I'm not, totally opposed.
Well, the question becomes, how did the ATF get all these transaction records? Well, the answer is they're not expunging the records within 72 hours again. I had a dealer tell me that he did an X-check and wanted to check back on it. 6 months later, he went to the FBI site, and it was still there. 6 months later, not 72 hours. Okay? So what we've got is an ATF, an out-of-control ATF, encouraged by Joe Biden, who's trying to make anti-gun appointments like David Chipman or Dettelbach to run this thing and saddle gun owners with an illegal gun registry. And they're creating this illegal gun registry. And now the universal background check idea says we should give more transaction records to this illegal gun registry. That's a problem.
Now, isn't the idea of having a gun registry one of the arguments towards gun control?
Well, let's put it this way. If you would like to know the practical effect of registering guns, ask the residents of California and the state of New York, who registered their so-called assault weapons, semi-automatic rifles, and then later started receiving letters from their state saying that, well, you can turn them in, you can render them inoperable, you can sell them out of state, or you can go to jail. That's what happens with gun registries. The fact is, gun ban advocates want registration because they can't ban what they can't find. That's why they want it.
And the only people that are good that would be on the registry would be people that are not criminals, by and large.
Absolutely correct.
I mean, what is the percentage of people who have gone through the steps to get a license and to buy and register a handgun or any weapon that actually...
I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to put together how many of the, shootings that, like 12 in the last, or 4 shootings in the last 3 days, like 6 shootings last weekend. Very few of the people that were handling those firearms had gone through any of these steps.
Yeah, very true. And by the way, understand people keeping, we've had 5 mass shootings in the last 2 days. Well, yes and no, all right? Now, if you want to talk about true active shooter scenarios, they are much more rare. What we're really talking about are gang conflicts. Gangs, 5, 6 people shooting at each other, and they happen to do it in a crowded public area, and other people get shot. Now, are those the kind of people who are going to be doing universal background checks? I don't think so.
No.
All right? And what we need to do is, but unfortunately, the media doesn't want you to know this. They just talk about, somebody shot into a crowd, and 5 people were determined to be shooting guns. Well, what they're not telling you is they're not telling you that in most cases these are black gangs, okay? And they don't want you to know that because, of course, that undermines their argument for you, the lawful gun owner, to register your guns under a universal background check scheme. The other thing that conservatives seem to be conflicted about are so-called red flag laws, or what I call red flag gun confiscation orders, because that's what they really are. Understand, first off, that red flag laws are almost by definition, to my way of thinking, the absence of the due process of law that you are guaranteed by the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. Here's why, and here's how they work. Somebody, could be a family member, could be a spouse, could be a vindictive ex-wife, could be a vindictive leftist coworker. Somebody says, you're dangerous. And so they go to a judge and get an order to have your firearms confiscated. Now understand that, as the lawyer for GOA put it, to err on the side of caution, a judge would probably grant one of these orders to a ham sandwich. Okay?
Right.
And so almost invariably they're going to grant that order. And by the way, these orders are often done in what are called ex parte hearings. Ex parte, or emergency hearings, which in some states may occur any time of day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and in which the defendant, you, don't even get notice that the hearing is taking place, much less an opportunity to defend yourself in court. Oftentimes, the first time you find out that one of these orders have been issued is when the cops show up at your door to confiscate your firearms. And that, in fact, is what happened to a Maryland man. I'm trying to find his name here. I don't see his name offhand, but several years back, a Maryland man answered his door at 5:17 in the morning because there was a pounding on the door. Now, if somebody's pounding on my door at 5:17, I'm going to answer that door with a firearm in my hand, right?
Yeah.
Not pointing at anybody, but just handy, because nothing good comes from somebody pounding on your door at 5:17 in the morning. Well, that's what this gentleman did too. And he got shot dead for his trouble by the time all was said and done. Turns out a family member, he'd had an argument with a family member, and the family member had one of these red flag gun confiscation orders issued against him, and he wound up dead.
So
Death
he was
by
basically
red flag.
swatted with a court order.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, man.
And let me tell you something. If you think vindictive ex-wives or husbands won't do this, there is a woman out there I need to interview for my radio show at some point, who was the subject of a vindictive and abusive ex-husband who got a restraining order issued against her first, so that she was unable to get a firearm for self-protection. Cute. So the problem with red flag laws, is that they are rife for abuse. And that's why the organizations almost uniformly oppose, Gun Owners of America, the NRA, our organization. And by the way, the guy whose name was Gary Willis, who got shot at 5:17 in the morning in Maryland. But that's why organizations generally oppose these types of laws. The devil, of course, is in the details, and in this case, the details can get you killed. So what I'm saying is that, and by the way, the Heritage Foundation, a prominent conservative think tank, published an article recently favoring red flag laws. The National Shooting Sports Foundation has said that they do not necessarily oppose red flag laws. Okay, once again, NSSF is, they're out to make money for their clients. They're not out to watch for your rights. So we need to understand this, to address this rift developing between conservatives, so we can show a united front against these gun control proposals, as we did in 2013. I personally put together with two other guys a coalition of 39 organizations in 2013, the Stop the Ban Coalition, 39 gun rights organizations, all dedicated to a single principle, that we would not compromise on the universal background check, aka universal gun registration provision that was being fronted by the Obama administration in 2013. And we killed it. Actually, we got the NRA to back away from it by pressuring the NRA, and that killed it. And so, but it's back again, okay? And it's just as bad as it was the first time. So we need people to go to grnc.org, and they will see alerts, okay, asking them to contact certain senators. Specifically, we're asking people to contact Mitch McConnell, John Cornyn, Lindsey Graham, who's once again being a problem, our own Tom Tillis and Richard Burr, okay, and tell them that there will be no compromises on gun control. Really, if we want to address it, rather than trying to be reasonable and accepting this idiotic so-called compromise, what we really should be doing is turning it back on the left, because they're the ones who are creating this problem, okay? As I said, a lot of these so-called mass killings, all right, are actually gang-related violence. Now, that gang-related violence is being exacerbated by the defund police movement, by the demoralizing of law enforcement officers, because they're being, every time they do anything, they're accused of systemic racism, and they try to prosecute them for, what in almost all cases is a rightful shoot, all right? They're being encouraged by so-called bail reform, in which prosecutors in major cities like Gascon and Los Angeles are refusing to prosecute criminals under enhanced sentencing laws, in particular because they're repeat felons. Okay, we've got a wide variety of leftist policies that are causing the exacerbation of this violence, right down to the fact that if you look at the killer in Texas, this guy he had a history of drug use. He's no parents in the home. He was living with his grandmother, who he shot in the face, and before going on his rampage. And so what we've done is we've first destroyed the nuclear family, beginning with Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society back in the 1960s, okay, de-emphasizing the nuclear family. Kids are growing up without father figures. They're growing up, frankly, to be sociopaths. We are creating a generation of sociopaths and then creating a justice system which encourages them to commit mayhem. And then when all this is done by the left, as the left always does, it comes in and says, well, we have a problem. Here's what we're going to do to solve it. You, Mr. Law-abiding gun owner, give up your guns. That's how the left solves problems. You see, once again, Saul Alinsky, the guy who wrote Rules for Radicals, the playbook for the left for the last 50 years. All right, he's a community organizer. That's what he called himself. That's who Barack Obama was channeling when he called himself a community organizer. And what he said was the first component to community organization is community disorganization. In other words, you must destroy the existing society in order to create the great socialist utopia they envision. And that is why these policies are going into place. They don't mind that they create mayhem, providing they get the opportunity to solve that mayhem, and I'll use that word in quotes, to solve it, by increased governmental control and restricting your civil liberties. That's what it's all about.
That sounds like the plot of a couple of good movies I've seen recently.
Well, as I say, it's not a conspiracy theory. Understand that we have people, like-minded people, who've been trained in universities since the Frankfurt School first brought critical theory to Columbia University in 1937. So these are like-minded people. And, for example, when you look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she doesn't mind that gas is not, going to hit $7 a gallon, because in her mind, that's how you force us onto green energy and electric cars and whatever other wacky scheme she wants. All of these things are acceptable to them for the ultimate purposes that they seek. To the left and to Alinsky, the ends justify the means. Alinsky said it. He said, the question is not whether the ends justify the means. That's meaningless. He said, the question is whether these particular ends justify these particular means. Okay? And then what he later said was that, and he said that, in war, that's what, the question is. But later he says that all of our political system is a war. So what he's saying is that in any case, in modern society, to these people who studied Alinsky, people who channel Alinsky, what they're saying is the ends justify the means. And so there doesn't have to be a conspiracy. Just a bunch of like-minded people. As I often say, and one of my early board members put it this way, you don't have to be a member of the choir to sing from the same piece of sheet music.
There you go. Your echo chamber is only where you are. Parlor and 8chan and all those places have shown us that it's no longer a geolocation issue.
Mm-hmm. So at any rate, go to grnc.org, check out the alerts, call senators, tell them you will not compromise on gun control. Tell them the left really wants to address violence. Okay. And by the way, I saw a constituent letter from Tom Tillis recently talking about gun violence this, gun violence that. All right. Tell these people to reject the phrase gun violence. Gun violence is a construct given to you by gun ban organizations. It's designed to imply somehow that death by gun is worse than death by knifing or blunt object or improvised explosive device. The fact is, death is death, all right? If they were seriously interested in benefiting society, they would be working to reduce all types of violence rather than focusing on one particular implement of violence. But, of course, that's not what they're after. They're not. The idea that violence exists in society is to them a useful tool in wrapping up your civil liberties.
And knowing that guns are a $1 billion a year or so business, of course they're going after money, not necessarily. It's kind of like drunk driving. All they did was, lower the rate or lower the percentage of blood alcohol to make more people convicted of drunk driving, but they didn't do anything to curb drunk driving, but they made a boatload more money from it.
Yeah.
So if we change the legislation to provide more of these fines, etc., then the government's going to make a lot of money, but the people who we want to address with these issues are still going to be avoiding all of the paperwork in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can't legislate morality no matter what it is. And again, as you pointed out, a pencil, a knife, it does not matter what the weapon is. Weapon itself is actually a pronoun for whatever happened to do the damage. A car can be a weapon.
Yep.
So.
And by the way, in one of those recent so-called mass killings over the weekend, the car was used to kill one of the 3 victims.
So we need to come to terms with what a weapon is and see if we can't do something about that. But
what we need to come to terms with is we need to come to terms with what the root causes of this really are.
Oh, okay? I got that one.
We need to reform the justice system. We need to work on family values in the nuclear family, and in the meantime, in the case of schools, we need to increase school security. Now, that's relatively simple. I mean, we've done it for airports. There's absolutely no reason we cannot do it for schools. And by the way, I would advocate doing precisely the same thing that the Department of Homeland Security did for the aviation industry to keep it safe. Until I retired, I was a federal flight deck officer. That's one of, and they don't really say the number, it's estimated to be around 10,000 pilots who volunteer and are trained to fly armed, okay, in order to defend a cockpit against intruders of the 9/11 variety. Now, what I propose is that we model that FFDO program and arm teachers under the same type of criteria. Because the bottom line is that school resource officer, he's not going to be in that classroom at that point in time. We've seen that law enforcement in at least 2 cases has failed miserably to go in and stop active shooters in schools. And so what we need to do is we need to allow selected, background-checked, volunteer teachers to be armed in that classroom to defend their students and, moreover, to deter violent sociopaths, because the fact is they look for soft targets. And in the aviation industry, we have not really had any attempts to take over the cockpits of airplanes since the FFDO program began. So that's my proposal.
Well, that's a start. That's certainly an idea that's, a little more effective and direct than what's being accounted now. Man, it's a lot to think about on a Monday morning.
Sorry.
Not at all. That's why we do it.
Have some more coffee. Have some more coffee.
It's sort of a coffee adjutant. But I understand you have a busy day, so I'm going to let you go. It's a little after 10 in the morning now, so I'm going to let people get on with their favorite program, the Consumer Choice Radio with Yael Osowski and David Clement. Your show is on Saturdays, but it replays throughout the week at 1 in the afternoon, I believe, or noon?
I think you said 11.
11, that's it. That's right.
Yep. Sunday at 5 and weekdays at 11. And I plan on doing a show to address exactly these issues this week. And so
everybody tune
get active,
in.
Folks.
Yeah, grnc.org, and tune in at 11 weekdays and 5 o'clock on Saturday for the fresh drop.
Very good, sir. Thank you again.
Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That does it for this day of the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Again, all the neurons are still connecting. I'm still putting the whole new system together. So we will see you tomorrow. Hopefully we will be rejoined by everybody who's been on vacation. Everybody from Dan and Bill and Chad and everybody I know. All right, so we will see you tomorrow. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, it's that button. I promise.
Keeping Ocean Isle informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he started